Let's get into this hearing this morning with Representative Tanner in the House State Affairs Committee when it comes to this Idaho Medical Freedom Act. Because even though this bill made it all the way through, you're still going to have the people that just can't seem to just accept it. They just can't seem to understand what the arguments about this bill are about. And they talk past you or they're I don't even know what they're paying attention to. Exhibit number 1. Let's just get into it right away. Exhibit number 1. Representative Stephanie Mickelson, our fool of the day. It's April Fool's Day. Representative Stephanie Mickelson questioning. No. Let's start with Representative Achilles. Do we want to start with that? Let's start with Representative Achilles. We'll get to Mickelson in a second. Let's tease you. Let's tease you up here. Representative Achilles, the Democrat out of Boise. Let's watch this exchange with him and Representative Tanner.
So, Representative Tanner, let me just go through a scenario here, and you can tell me if I'm misreading this or not. So, I'm an employer. I got 500 people in my business, and I'm paying for everybody's health care. And obesity is a disease, and I want to incent people to lose weight so they live healthier lives and their healthcare costs are less. So that would be, if I'm looking at page 2, line 10, that would be a prevention. That would fall under a medical intervention definition. And then if I go to page 3, line 26, I am now a business entity who is offering ongoing compensation or a benefit to an employee based on whether the employee has or has not or used a medical intervention. So am I misreading this thing?
Representative Tanner.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Representative, so I guess we'll use the scenario then, because this actually was an actual scenario that happened to me. My wife actually bought me a treadmill. I don't know if it was for her actually telling me she needed for me to be more healthy or not, but she bought the treadmill all the same and tried to get me to use it. I actually do not like treadmills. I don't like running in place, and so I never used the treadmill. So then she turned around and bought me a bike thinking that was actually going to help, and I would love to go ride she bought me a stationary bike, and I decided I don't like stationary bikes. I don't want to just ride in place. So, I went and bought myself a mountain bike. But in that sense, she tries to buy the healthy foods for me. Doesn't mean I can still go out and buy whatever food I want and eat the foods. So in a sense, you can try to put whatever medical intervention you want, in a sense, if you're going to try to offer gym memberships. I personally do that to my employees. A lot of them use it. Some of them don't. It is a thing you can try to encourage, but you cannot force.
Follow-up?
Well, yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So again, Representative Tanner, my scenario is simply that I'm an employer offering an incentive to my employees to do something that would lessen the likelihood of a disease, prevent a disease. So the programs that we're talking about here, in my reading of this bill, all of that would be prohibited, which I've got a bunch of issues with. There's no public value in doing that, number one. And number two, I'm an employer. I can do what, I need to do for my business. This is telling me as an employer what I can and can't do.
Follow-up or response?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Representative, just on the follow-up response. Again, you can offer whatever additional services, and there's nothing in state law that says you have to give somebody a policy that includes gym memberships or access to certain aspects of things. If that's your will and your goodness that you want to try to offer, that's great. But there's nothing currently that you could actually force any employee to actually do. This is the same thing we run into within health and welfare. We could actually address a lot of things within Medicaid if we wanted to, if we could actually direct them to do that. That is not our role as a state, and luckily, we've recognized that. We can encourage, but that's it.
I don't know where these people get these arguments. So if I buy health care for my employees and I want them to live a healthy lifestyle, and he even said I offer these things to my employees. Like, yes, you can offer these things to your employees, but you're not forcing them to do it, right? Like, that's the whole point. It's about forcing. It's about mandating. It's about saying you must do this now or you will not partake. Right? I like they're reading into this something that is just completely not there because they have no arguments, because they know that it's right. That's what I've come down to. And then just like right on cue here is Representative Stephanie Mickelson, who has her own problems. It's so funny when I think she wants everybody to quit forgetting that she's been caught harboring an criminal illegal alien, a violent, drug-addicted criminal illegal alien on her farm. I think she wants everybody to forget about that ICE just raided her farm. But we're not going to forget about that because we've got more on that later. That being said, here she is, all high and mighty, again, with like completely baseless arguments that have nothing to do with this bill. Watch this first exchange.
Good Representative Tanner and Chairman Crane. I guess if you could describe to us how this works for a business, if somebody had an active case of measles or lice, where their rights as a business to refuse service come into play here in this bill.
Representative Tanner.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman, Representative. This deals with the medical intervention. So you cannot medically intervene. That is the only thing that this actually bill is addressing and doing. I know everybody keeps trying to going down rabbit holes in a lot of different areas within this, but this just allows so you don't those businesses cannot direct medical intervention in that aspect. It doesn't say they cannot not have that person come to the business. It doesn't say anything in a sense like that at all. What it does is it does say that they cannot medically intervene. They cannot say, hey, we are going to require you to get a COVID vaccine. We are going to require you to do certain aspects of things. So.
Follow up, Mr. Chairman. Okay, then, Mr. Tanner, can you explain to me why on page 2, lines 29 through about 32 here, it says a business entity doing business in the state of Idaho shall not refuse to provide any service, product, admission to a venue, or transportation to a person because that person has not received or used a medical intervention. Doesn't that just go against what you just said?
Representative Tanner.
Mr. Chairman, good representative. No.
Follow up.
Can you explain to me how reading the plain language of this, that's not what that says? Because it says you can't deny admission.
Representative Tanner.
Good Chairman, Representative. It says, or use a medical intervention. That is the whole thing that you're actually adding to this. Medical intervention is where you're actually addressing that aspect. You cannot medically intervene with them. Again, it comes down to individual rights, not businesses' rights. It comes down to them making a decision for their own aspect. I can't actually, as an individual, force somebody else to actually to get a vaccine. I really believed in vaccines. We'll just go to the aspect of the hypothetical aspect where I actually believe that vaccines are going to be the greatest thing ever. And I go to the good chairman and I said, I don't want to actually come into this committee unless you get a vaccine. Again, it's his decision. It's his right to be able to do that. And that is more what we're addressing within this. I know that everybody keeps trying to drag other aspects of things into it, but that is in the end what this actually deals with. So thank you.
Yeah, perfectly said there. But Mickelson, all she has to do is read the bill, right? Producers, I just threw up a screenshot in here. This is the language. Remember the definitions, right? We talked about definitions that are inside the bill. Here's what a medical intervention means. It's right in the bill. It means a medical procedure, treatment, device, drug injection, medication or medical action taken to diagnose, to prevent, or to cure a disease or alter the health or biological function of a person. That is what a medical intervention is. It doesn't mean you can't just send someone home. It doesn't mean that when someone walks into your place of business and they're, people throw people out of their business when they're like smelly, like bums off the street. They're like, sir, you're disrupting the flow, the chi of our location because you stink. Can you please leave? Like, of course you can do that. Of course, if they're sick, you can ask them to leave. I don't know if she's just like not bright up here, if she has too many injections of her own. I don't understand. I don't understand these people. I really don't understand it. It's right there. What part of this? I mean, he is absolutely right. You're going down these rabbit holes simply because you don't want to have any, you don't like any of it. You don't want any of it. You want to be able to tell people what to do. That's all that it is. That's all that it is. But that's the medical intervention. It's right there, right in the bill. Right in the bill. There was more back and forth between Tanner and some other folks, but then Mickelson, she had to double down again. Watch this.
Okay, I think I'd like to kind of come back to a thread that Representative Dygert was talking about. Having been an employer and having had employees, I have a little bit of experience in this, and there's nothing more frustrating to an employer that is responsible for employees, and an employee gets hurt, and then the employer ends up having to pay a big bill because you have an employee that refuses to go to their appointments, refuses to take their medications, refuses to do all these things, because at the end of the day, the entity that is on the line isn't the person that's exercising their medical freedoms. It's the employer that happened to be at the place of business, that the employee happened to be at the place of business when an event may have taken place. We had an experience where we had a guy that had 2 broken toes. Well, he didn't tell anybody he had diabetes. And then he walked around and he ended up with an ulcerated wound and some things because of it. Those 2 non-displaced fractures cost our business over $300,000. And I totally applaud people wanting to not be vaccinated. If that's their choice, great. But the problem is we have said in this bill, if we allow this to move forward, that they get to have all the medical freedom they want, but then I get to have all the responsibility of the bill and the problems that go with it. And so I have no problem if we talked about medical intervention, meaning they don't have to take something into their body that they don't want to. But when we're saying we can't deny a person access to our business, which is a private property right, a right to be able to deny people access if we feel like it's not safe for whatever reason, we now have said you don't have any rights as a private business on private property. It's my rights are superior to all other rights that are out there. And I think that this bill sets a bad precedence in that perspective, that we take away from businesses' private property rights at the expense of somebody saying, I get to have all the medical freedom I want. So I will not be supporting a motion to move this bill to the House floor.
First of all, on behalf of Idaho Public Television and whoever's directing the camera over there, I don't know why they took the camera off her. Probably because they're getting paid by her or something. I have no idea why. I cannot believe those words came out of her mouth, folks. She's like, how should I put my company and my other employees at risk by allowing another employee to just have medical freedom? Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? You just put your entire community at risk by keeping an illegal alien, violent criminal arrested. There it is, folks. Sajid Soto, employee of Mickelson Farm for years, folks, for years. We're going to get it. God, we don't have to. We'll get into it in a minute here. We're going to take a quick break and get into that. We got to do a nice, clean segue so we can edit it out and have it out there. But this is what I'm talking about, folks. This legislator is gone rogue. Absolutely rogue. Absolutely rogue. She sits on that dais up there and talks about not wanting to protect your medical rights and your medical freedoms. She doesn't know. She reads this bill, doesn't even know what she's voting on. She has a record of sitting in the House and standing up and saying, "Oh, I want to change my vote," when she gets caught voting for an absolute abhorrent bill or against a really good bill. She's gone rogue, folks. She's gone absolutely rogue. And you folks out there in East Idaho need to wake up. We're going to take a quick break and we're going to go through her relationship with Sajid Soto right after this.
what happened. You want to pull the tape? You can pull the tape because we now got video.